So welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have you in. I know that as we've been connected, I mean, it's been 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And so much of our friendship and what I've watched expand for you in your career has been not only so inspiring, but I really just wanted to bring light to people that may need this additional layer of support through therapy. And I know that your lens is through grief and loss. So I would love to be able to just start with your origin story. Where did this come from for you? And like what inspired you to walk this path through therapy?
So in my childhood, in my life, I was always inspired by people that showed up for brief amounts of time to really give me support and to kind of be like beacons of hope to show me that there were people out there that were reliable adults that I could trust and turn to and show me that there was hope for love in life. I had a pretty traumatic childhood and I lost my mom to suicide at 12. And so, grief and loss, I feel like for me has been a constant companion with me my whole life. And so my first career was as a special ed teacher in an elementary setting with kids, and I loved doing that. It was a great job. I loved working with the kids. Didn't like the paperwork, didn't like the administration piece, but I loved that part of it. And when it was time to transition to a different career, I chose therapy so that I could still be working with children and their parents and families, just in a different setting. And so I'm really happy that my whole career I've been able to continue to work with children.
I love that. Who would you say who are you working with right now that you feel like age range wise, is that still just like primarily kids, or do you have a range of clients that you work with?
So I see like preteens and adolescents and young adults like into late 20s as my clients. That is the generation that has grown up, since 2000. That is a generation that is, in my opinion, completely unique, that's grown up with the internet, with smartphones, with, unfortunately, school shootings and everything horrible in the world just in their face 24/7. And they have lived a life that, the majority of us really don't know and really can't understand. And whether or not I think they have diagnosed anxiety or not, diagnosed social anxiety or not, diagnosed depression or not, I think those are just common themes that I see in all of my clients. And so I myself can resonate with that. And so those are, really the main kind of things that people are coming to me for, and mainly the clients that I see right now.
Yeah. And if there is someone listening right now that kind of falls in that range, right? What is something that you would tell them at this moment, just through these different experiences that we see so potent online? Some just that beacon of hope you're speaking to, just to be like a guided word.
I think that, when it comes to therapy, there, are always, usually there's people in your life who hopefully are people that love you and encourage you to go to therapy, encourage you to, find some sort of mental health help. And you may believe that and want to do it, but it really is something that you have to want to do. You have to be ready and say, okay, I'm going to do this, because it is work. It's not something that you can just be a passive participant in. But it really is such a huge investment in your hope and in your future. And it is absolutely learning tools for your resilience, for your personality and your boundary setting, and for your authenticity, and for all the things that you may have missed out on because of circumstances in your childhood. It may be things that you struggle with because of the environment that you've grown up in. And so I would say, to people listening, if that resonates with you, then, maybe it is time to find someone, in the mental health profession right now.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, again, your lens through grief and loss is what is something that has carried you through because of your past experience. When personally did therapy drop in for you? Was that something that you embarked on yourself, where you were like, okay, I want to try this first, and then you got into, later in life finding like, that's my path, that's what I want to do for people? Or was it through being a therapist that you were like, ooh, I also desire this layer of support for myself?
I was, put into therapy early in my life. I think it probably around like 10.
Okay.
And I say put into it because it was a period of my life after my parents got divorced, and it was like, oh, Mia should go to therapy. Well, yes, but I didn't want to. And that's really the worst case scenario. If someone's put into therapy and they don't want to be there, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money. So I had a lot of experiences early on in therapy that was not a good fit in terms of me and the clinician. It was not the right time. So I really didn't grow up feeling very positive about therapy. But I always grew up feeling like being an ally to kids and wanting to help kids, which is why, like I said, I got into teaching. But, so I don't see myself as a clinician like the kind that I, went to when I was younger. I see myself as someone who is here to help when people are ready, and I'm going to meet them where they are, and I'm not coming off as, this clinical, sterile kind of person. I'm coming here with tools, with some understanding to the best that I can of people's situations, but I'm really here as kind of a lens and a mirror for people to understand, and go at their own pace of their own healing and the situation that they've grown up in. And to learn, first of all, what their strengths are, because everyone does have strengths, whether they realize them or not, and then to capitalize on those strengths, and then to be able to protect those strengths, like I said, and build those boundaries to maybe kind of filter out the things and the people that are not good for us, that don't protect us, that, maybe sabotage those strengths. And so, therapy is that process. It's an awakening process. It's a learning process. It's not linear by any means.
Totally.
It's very difficult. And, when people say, well, how long will this take? It's completely individual. It's up to the person, how they feel their progress is going is up to them. Like I said, I'm just a conduit for that progress, but there is no time limit, and you, in terms of my client, like, you will know when it's time. You will know when you feel like, okay, I think I've got this. Like, I can recognize the things that are not good for me. I can recognize the tools that will help me, because things will always be hard in life. There will always be the dark times, the things that trigger us. So, but I think I can handle them. So you will understand. I think I can kind of, check out of therapy. I think I've had enough, know. And then maybe there comes a time where you want to go back. Like me personally, I've gone in and out of therapy, in the past 20 years, and it's been great, and I know when I'm ready to leave, and I know when I'm ready to come back to.
I think an important piece that you said pretty early on too is just recognizing, because at a young age you were like, number one, the resistance was there because you didn't want to be there, but then also too, like, if you're at that place where you're ready to invest in your mental health and you're just like, I desire support right now, especially in a place where like things feel like it's just really a big investment, which is part of the reason why I'm creating the work that I am, with just being able to connect with affordability at a baseline. But the biggest thing is recognizing that, like, you may have a conversation with a client and being honest about that experience and saying, hey, I loved this connection and I think that I have somebody better that could support you based off of your work, right? And they can also say the same thing. And I think that that's important. One of the best pieces of advice that I got early on in my therapy journey was that it's like dating. And it's like, if it doesn't feel like it fits, that's also okay.
100%.
So it's like, you may have a connection where you're like, yep, cool, this felt really good. And, or, you know, that person isn't feeling that way, and that's okay. So I think to be able to honor that on both sides is a beautiful way to, number one, just practice autonomy of what your investments are, but additionally how we can continue to grow as individuals, support each other, and you're not just letting them, you know, hang out to dry. You're like, hey, I might actually have a better connection.
That's right.
So that's a beautiful thing. And then another thing you said is just like, again, all of these things that you could talk about or just be supportive on, it's building a foundation, and it's building a toolkit for people that I think, you know, need it. And, you know, sometimes with that even too, it takes time. You know, but getting into the guide and being a part of the affordable wellness, and for those that don't know, I'm creating an affordable guide for those in Austin, Texas right now, but hopeful to expand in the future. And I invited you in because you are one of my dearest friends. I know the work that you do, the integrity that you have, the compassion that you have, your beautiful Cancerian heart. I always just like, we connect so much on that, and that just like nurturing, loving space. And what you're offering is really unique. It's not just like a virtual, let's sit on Zoom and chat. But I would love to know a little bit about the process that you'd like to go through for, you know, your potential interests and or future clients. You know, when somebody finds your name in the guide and they're like, I'm intrigued by what Mia is offering, walk me through the process. What does that look like when they reach out to you?
So I would think most people are going to email me, because that's typically how people contact me first. And then I'm going to email you back and ask you what a good time is for us to have a phone consult, because that's usually what I do. I talk to people on the phone. It's typically, you know, 15 to 30 minutes to kind of get what you're looking for, and that's kind of the first opportunity to see if I'm the right fit for you, if you're the client that I would like to work with, you know, because it's a two-way street of if we're both a fit for each other. And that's just, you know, a free consultation. I don't ever charge for those. And then I want to do my sessions outdoors, because in Austin it's generally spring and or summer all year long. And so I'm going to say down at, you know, Town Lake. It's a pretty central location. There's we can walk, or there's a lot of benches, and I just feel like I would love to do an outdoor session with people. So, you know, we would just meet there and have the 60-minute session there. And, you know, I think within the first session, in my experience, I think there's a good sense of if this is a good fit and if people want to continue.
Absolutely.
You know, people always ask, like, do I need to come every week? They don't always ask, but they will ask unless they know, do I want to come every week, or I want to come every other week. And again, that's also just a personal choice thing. If people want to come. I often say to come every week until you feel like, I'm good, I want to come every other week, or even monthly. It's again, it's up to you. This is your work, so you can be in control of it and say, I want to come this amount of time. But that's generally, I think, how the process will go.
Yeah, I think as someone who started, we'll say, my more consistent therapy journey in 2020 and around 2020, it was just before that happened, you know, it was one of those things that I've only known Zoom therapy. I've only known just like through a phone, right? And when you were talking to me about what you were thinking about offering, I was like, wow, this could be so powerful, because number one, like, even just walking outside sometimes, like, just being amidst the air, nature, like the elements, being able to see other people, even if you're not interacting with them, or simply just being on your own, and maybe you're not in a space where there's people and it's quiet and you're able to walk through the elements, that in itself can feel so healing, right? Because you're breathing air that isn't stale from inside, and these like just overhead lighting that just feels like it just wrecks our nervous system, right? So to be in the presence of, you know, not only yourself, who's just like a very grounded, soothing, nurturing person, and what I've experienced personally through our friendship, but then additionally when you have your therapy lens on, you know, just very open. So, you know, I love the offering of like, I mean, maybe call, what would we call it, like a walk and talk almost, or even like a, okay, cool. I just think that's going to be so powerful, you know, because it's just the ability to be able to like marry therapy but not feel, like you said, so clinical and like, oh, we're going into this office. And I have had personally arrival anxiety for a long time. She's working through it, she's feeling better, you know, it takes time. But I myself really like, you know, it's like if I'm going into an experience like that or I'm meeting somebody, it's like that they're kind of like meeting me right there, and it can be really, you know, kind of feeling like your insides are shaking a little bit. Whereas like being outside, it's like, okay, I can already like walk through the elements, breathe a little differently, show up a little bit differently, and be able to connect in a different way. So I think what you're going to be able to offer here is just absolutely incredible. So I'm excited to have you as a part of this experience. So this next piece, and something that I've just like witnessed you through, because you take on these beautiful experiences, and also have blown my mind with being a keynote speaker and all of those things, but you've also written books. So tell me a little bit about that, where that started, maybe where your first one came from, and then how that evolved.
So my first book I started in 1998, and that was because I went to a support group called Motherless Daughters, and there was another woman in that support group whose mother had also died by suicide, and we were the only two people in there who had that common experience, and we just got to talking and said, hey, why don't we write a book? Like, that's easy, let's just do that. Sure. And 10 years later we wrote a book, we had the book, and it was such a beautiful experience because we basically interviewed people from all over the country, and this was before Zoom, this was before a lot of technology that would have made this easier, so we literally would call people and record it and transcribe it ourselves. But the beautiful part was, we would talk to people, and the majority of the time we were the first people that they had ever shared their experience about their parents' suicide with. And so it was very healing for them. It was very healing for us, just like that two-way, you know, healing situation, which is how therapy works, really. You know, you heal when I heal when so it was very beautiful. But, you know, that book was an amazing experience because there was never any doubt in my mind that it wouldn't be a book, you know, and like, I always look back and go, what was I thinking? Like, how did that happen? Because I did that, like, you know, while I was having a child and while I was in my career, and like, it was, you know, but anyway.
You're like, where did the time come from?
What happened? And then the last, you know, two books that I, again, just was asked to do, like the universe was like literally dropped into my inbox of a publisher saying, hey, we know you wrote this other book about grief and loss. Would you like to write this book? And that was in late 2020. And again, I was like, okay, sure. Like, let me just write another book. As you know, it's the pandemic and I'm working full time, and that was, oh, and by the way, it's a 6-week turnaround for writing a book.
Timeline,
easy. And that was called an interactive journal, which is, it's a grief and loss book, but it's got, you know, writing prompts and exercises so that you can almost feel like it's a support group in a book for healing of grief and loss on your journey. And that was a beautiful experience because my dad died while I wrote that book, and that was like another layer of healing for me. And then when I finished that book, like a few months later, they turned around and said, oh, can you now write the same book for children, like ages 8 to 12? And I was like, okay, guys, let's do it. So I did that. and that was a special book because, I was 12, and so it was so nice to write a book for children, because children, in my opinion, when they experience, a death loss, they just get shoved in the corner, and they don't get, involved in the death rituals, and it's just the assumption that they can't handle it, and they don't, shouldn't get exposed to anything, and that for sure was my experience. And so, I wanted kids to know, and that's what I put in the foreword of the book is, I believe you, and your story is real, and your feelings are valid, because that's the message I wanted children to have. So
it's so beautiful. I mean, you gifted your first book to me, and it was like, again, in the midst of that time, because it came out, it was like 2021 that it ended up coming, just July 2021.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I got that, it was just not only the prompts, but also the just quotes that came from your community as well, like the people that you have also worked with that have had these profound messages for you that were also interweaved into this book. And I just think it's so powerful. So I'll make sure that there's some way that we link those to this conversation as well, because for anybody that's listening that may be like, oh, maybe I don't have the financial investment to do the walk and talk at this moment, but there is something out there to support me. I want to be able to offer them that as well, if that feels good for you.
If you go to my website, which is, I know, part of the guide, they're on the website.
Oh, so amazing.
And they're pretty inexpensive. So,
yeah. They were, I mean, and for what you get, too. I just was like, girl, you really did such an incredible job putting those together. And I think just in your work in general, it is like literally you pulled from your heartstrings, you pulled from your past experiences, but there's just that really warm, beautiful, mother undertone to it that feels neutral but also feels really supportive. And I think that is what a lot of us need a lot of the time. So I just want to say I'm so freaking proud of you, and I'm so happy to have you as a part of this guide and allow people to explore the offerings that you have as this walk and talk, because I think it's just going to be such a beautiful way to expand therapy that just feels a little different. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.